Woke up this little moon and my diamonds came in from Elliot. Pearls on that fucking bitch's neck, she so elegant. Shop about the fucking mall, so much made me a resident. This Maybach got 4 windows, 10, it don't feel like the president. How I'm coming, I'm just standing it.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Crooked Hour. We just finished UFC Paris and I wanted to make a little video talking about the co-main and the main event, both intense events. You know, I've been awake, I had to do an all-nighter, represent all the Aussies that stayed up all night to watch this event. It was a tough night. You know, I had to have a tactical little sleep, went to bed around 10:30, woke up at 2, watched the fights up until 8:30 in the morning and then went back to bed with a happy result. I got some parlays that cashed in. I got some bets that cashed in. Robert Whittaker and Ciryl Gane. I had them in a parlay that cashed in. Had a big bet on Robert Whittaker that cashed in. Overall, a great event. Like, if we're just going over the whole event real quick, you know, we had Ailin Perez having all the talk. I believed in her a lot. I still represent. I don't know if she'll stay in the UFC. Maybe they might give her another shot. But she lost against Stephanie Edgar by decision. Then we had Christian Quinones. Actually, but just before the fight started, I made a bet with my girlfriend and I put a bet on the underdog in Quinones. I wish I did more research into this fight because he won quite comfortably. Saint Denis won quite comfortably, as expected. Michael Figlak didn't really have an answer for Ziam. That's my fault for picking Figlak. Nasrat just outboxed John McDessie like I thought. Magomedov dominated Dustin Stoltzfus. That was an insane knockout. That straight kick straight to the chin, man, that was madness. Then we had Wood. I predicted Wood to win against Charles Jourdain. Just the boxing. I thought the boxing and the improvements by Nathaniel Wood would win him this fight, and it did. Plus those really nice trips he was doing against Charles Jourdain. I see a lot of people saying Charles Jourdain, you know, it was washed in this fight, but I just think Nathaniel Wood was a lot better. And he was making it so Charles Jourdain couldn't offer as many attacks as he usually does. So I wouldn't fault Charles Jourdain, I would credit Nathaniel Wood. William Gomez bet Jano Aarons. That I kind of just played my phone over this fight. Wasn't really interested in this fight at all. Didn't really know much about it. So I just looked at my phone. But it looked like a pretty interesting fight when I looked up. Roman Kopylov got the win in the third round like I expected. Roman Kopylov, you know, he was just landing the more powerful shots. Chirico flat-footed, thought he would lose. Imavov bet Buckley. Man, it was just the size. Buckley really turned it on in the third round though. I don't necessarily think it was a bad bet, but the size, man, the size. And then we get to the co-main, the main event. As you can see, we're repping the Whittaker T. You know, I was hyped for this event. I thought Whittaker would have it, but man, I'm too invested in these fights. If you're like me, you know, you might comment L, like this is an L. How do you get so invested into fighters? But Robert Whittaker's probably his second favourite fighter, first favourite fighter. He'd be up there. So I was getting nervous. It's like confidence. The fight's finally coming. Then you start to second guess. You're like, what if Marvin Vettori has made drastic improvements? What if he just comes out here and somehow wrestles Robert Whittaker? First round, I wasn't too nervous though because I knew Robert Whittaker usually starts slow. I was thinking at the start, I was like, man, I hope he does pick up this output, which he did, and he just schooled Marvin Vettori. When are we going to start talking about Robert Whittaker as being the champ? I don't think he's the champ. I see a lot of people saying that they think he won that fight. I don't think he won that fight. I think it was very close. I think there is an argument that he won that fight, but I'm not disappointed in Israel Adesanya winning that fight. I think it's very, very close. Could have went either way. I definitely don't think it's a robbery, but I am going to say it now. Robert Whittaker beats Israel Adesanya in a third fight. In a trilogy fight, Robert Whittaker wins. I think he's improving a lot more than Israel Adesanya. I think he's showing more weapons that he can use against Israel Adesanya. And I also think he beats Alex Pereira. Just due to the wrestling. He just can't get caught. But I mean, he's shown a lot of improvements. I mean, he barely got punched in this fight. He barely got touched in this fight. His head movement was on point. His defense was on point. His hand speed was on point. You know, and he has this nice little arsenal of attacks. You know, he's got the stomp to the leg kick, the 1-2 high kick, the 1-2. And they're his main weapons, but he uses them very well. He sharpened those tools up very, very well. Robert Whittaker's a real problem. You know, I think he's the best middleweight alive. That's a bold statement. You know, you got Alex Pereira and you got Robert Whittaker. And you got Ciryl Adesanya. Ciryl Adesanya's beat this man twice, but in the second fight it was really close. I don't know how people can still go, oh, Robert Whittaker got washed by Ciryl Adesanya twice. And I'm not even someone who necessarily thinks Robert Whittaker won that second fight. I just think after that performance, he's the best middleweight alive. I mean, if that was a 5-round fight, honestly, how do you think that would have went? How do you think that would have went? You know, Marvin Vettori was getting straight schooled. I reckon he would have got finished. I reckon Robert Whittaker would have finished him. You know, he came close to it. Am I wrong? Has anybody hurt Marvin Vettori like that? I honestly don't have that answer. I haven't seen it. I seen Kevin Holland kind of sting him. But other than that, who's really done this to Marvin Vettori? I know Ciryl Adesanya isn't. I know Paulo Costa isn't, although some of those body kicks were deadly. And after this performance, you know, you compare performances. I know MMA math doesn't always work like that, but ask yourself, do you also really see Paulo Costa beating Robert Whittaker? I don't say that. I'm just hyped because the Reaper, representing Australia, is looking like one of the best middleweights out there right now, if not the best. And this trilogy fight must happen. I'm praying that Robert Whittaker doesn't lose some fight on the way, because I want to see this trilogy fight. I honestly want to see the trilogy between Ciryl Adesanya and Robert Whittaker. You know, ideally, a cool scenario would be Robert Whittaker maybe fights Paulo Costa, wins, maybe spends some time out. I know he wants to fight on that Australia card. Beats Paulo Costa there, takes some time out. Then you get Ciryl Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. Let's say Alex Pereira wins dominantly. Let's say they have a rematch, because I do think Ciryl Adesanya deserves his rematch, even if Alex Pereira wins dominantly. Alex Pereira wins again. Robert Whittaker versus Alex Pereira. Robert Whittaker beats Alex Pereira. Ciryl Adesanya fights somebody else and wins. Maybe fights Paulo Costa again or something. I don't know. Throw somebody in there. Maybe fights a Sean Strickland. And then you got Robert Whittaker champion versus Ciryl Adesanya challenger. That could happen. It could happen. I think Robert Whittaker has a better chance at beating Alex Pereira than Ciryl Adesanya does. It's like, styles make fights. Ciryl has got a bad style for Robert Whittaker, I understand that, but I think with these improvements, especially if that does happen in that timeline, Robert Whittaker beats Paulo Costa, beats Alex Pereira, then Robert Whittaker's got this experience. He's got the training, run it back. I think Robert Whittaker wins. Overall, good fight, entertaining fight, close first round. Robert Whittaker dominates the last two. Probably not enough for a 10-8, although that last round maybe could have been a 10-8. You know, I wouldn't give it, but it was close too. I reckon if there was more rounds, we could have seen a 10-8 or a finish. I reckon we could have seen 5th round finish by Robert Whittaker the way the fight was going. Yeah, I could see him either getting it to the ground as well and getting the submission. I mean, he took Marvin Vettori down with ease, and I think it was kind of a thing to say, like, Marvin Vettori tried to take him down and he defended it, and then he kind of just decided to say it's my turn, and then he just took him down. You know, he didn't do a lot with it, but he landed some nice little elbows. I mean, it was nice. It's a nice performance. Robert Whittaker, best middleweight alive right now, I believe. I hope we get the third fight between Whittaker and Israel. Especially Israel can't be this oblivious and just be like, he can't just shrug off the fact that that fight was very close. Because that's what he's doing. He's shrugging off the fact it was close. He's just saying, well, I clearly won. But you clearly didn't win. I mean, it was a close fight. I think he needs to address it, and I think they need to run it back straight up. Run it back. Eventually. It more depends on Robert Whittaker's next fight and Alex Pereira. If Israel beats Alex Pereira, I could easily see Robert Whittaker beating, Paulo Costa. I think that's the matchup to make. I think Robert Whittaker wins that quite comfortably now after seeing that performance, and then I think you run it back for a third time. I mean, who else is there? You got Sean Strickland out, even if Sean Strickland, I don't know. I just don't know. But overall, good co-main event. You know, that could have been a main event on its own. I would have liked to see that over 5 rounds just because I would have liked to see where it would have went. I would have liked to see if Robert Whittaker got the finish. And I believe he does. I believe he would have. I do. Next up, Ciryl Gane, Tai Tuivasa. This fight, man. This fight, I was stressing because I had bets on Ciryl Gane, but then I had this little voice in my head saying, bro, I actually want Tai to get this done. Because just how funny and how legendary. Tai Tuivasa, Western Sydney, going shit. He was going shit, and then he comes in and chins Ciryl Gane and gets the win. Imagine. Ciryl Gane showed a lot to me this fight. You know, he showed that he's got heart and a chin. And he also showed that he can brawl. He brawled a lot more in this fight compared to other fights. You know, people are going to say, oh, he's just going to leg kick, move around. Bro, he isn't Israel Adesanya, you know. Ciryl Gane is down to bang. That's one thing I learned this fight. He was down to bang. Sure, Tai brought the banging, but Ciryl Gane, you know, he could have ran away. He's done against Derek Lewis and others. He just ran away from the action. I feel like he was sitting on his punches a lot more and just wanting to bang and get the finish here. I feel like he knew that was his best choice. Tai dropping Ciryl Gane in the second round. I could see it coming because Ciryl Gane, you know, Tai was finding a home, and I don't know if it was just because Tai's punches were getting to the mark, or I don't know if it was because Ciryl Gane's defense was lacking a little bit, or maybe it was a mixture of both. But I could just see him getting clipped. You know, he kept getting hit with these little shots, and I was like, if that keeps happening, he's going to get clipped. And he did. He showed good heart to stay in the fight, started tagging up that body. Tai Tuivasa played possum. You know, pretended to be hurt by that head kick. Threw a mad wing and hook. Ciryl Gane ducked underneath it. And then they just started to brawl. And I was like, Ciryl Gane, I want you to cash in my bet. Stop brawling with this guy. Stop brawling with Tai Tuivasa. You know, he sinks him, he dinks him. You know, he didn't really live up to that logo. He sunk him. No, he dunk him. What is it? If I sink him, I dink him. He sunk him, but he didn't dink him. Dink him, sink him. I don't know. It's one or the other. But yeah, he didn't do it. He did one, but he didn't do the other. He didn't finish Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane with the nice knockout. I'm glad how the fight went overall, especially when you like both people. I think this fight went exactly how you wanted it to, unless you were like majorly on the Tai Tuivasa side. I mean, Tai Tuivasa showed a better fight than Francis Ngannou. Actually, I can't really say that. Showed better on the feet than Francis Ngannou. Sure, Francis had a torn ACL, but in my opinion, Francis just laid on Ciryl Gane that whole fight. I think Tai showed a better ability in the fight to fight on the feet with Gane, but as a champion, Francis took the right route. Yeah, he took the right route. Showed it much better than Derek Lewis. Showed a lot better than everybody Ciryl Gane's fought. I think that's the most adversity Ciryl Gane's taken. Sure, he got decisioned by Francis, but that's the most adversity Ciryl Gane's taken. I mean, he's fought Derek Lewis, Alexander Volkov, Rosenstrike, Dos Santos, and Tanner Boza, Don'Tale Mayes, Rafael Pesoza. This is the most adversity. Tai Tuivasa, I think this really makes him look good. And Tai Tuivasa, how old is he? How old is Tai Tuivasa? Tai Tuivasa is only 29. Like, he's got a bright future ahead of him. Ciryl Gane's 32. Ciryl Gane should be the champion. I think Ciryl Gane, Ciryl Gane should be champion. I think Tai really showed his ability that he can hang with nearly anybody in the heavyweight division. Like, I think he would give a lot of the people problems, including, if we go over the rankings, right? I mean, Curtis Blades might give him some problems with the wrestling. Tom Aspinall would give him some problems with the speed, but that's a winnable fight for Tai. After that performance, that is a winnable fight for a Tai. I wouldn't be saying this before, but I'm saying it now. Alexander Volkov, winnable fight for Tai. Sergey Pavlovich, winnable fight for Tai. Dangerous fight, but a winnable fight. You know, I could actually see them making that fight. I could. Or an Alexander Volkov versus Tai Tuivasa. I could see him making either one of those fights. Rosenstruck's a winnable fight. Marcin Tybura is a winnable fight if he avoids the rest of them, but I think he could just give him a lot of problems on the feet. Sergey Spivak, bad fight for Tai. There's a lot of winnable fights for him here. Even against Sergey or Curtis Blades, it's still a fight that he could win. It's just, I wouldn't lean it towards his favour. But, you know, he could catch a lot of these guys. Overall, banger fight. I'm glad with the way today's card went. Very entertaining card. Very nice on a, strategic level. They're my favourite cards. I don't really like the big brawling cards. I like to see a strategic war that involves a little bit of brawling, you know. So this card was for me. Next weekend, we got UFC 279. And I think this card is going to be difficult for it to hold up compared to UFC Paris. I mean, we got some nice matchups on here. Hamzat Chimaev, Nate Diaz, Li Jingliang, Tony Ferguson, Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez, Irene Aldana, Macy Barber, Johnny Walker, Ian Kutalaba. It's not a bad card. It's not a bad card at all. I mean, the main event's probably, if you're a casual, you could probably just go with skipping the prelims and just watch the main card. The main card is just what is making this UFC 279 great. Anyway, I just wanted to have a little recap. Wanted to talk about the main event and the co-main. Overall, good card. Appreciate yous all. I mean, this channel is growing at a nice pace. I mean, all the views, all the subs. I mean, I really appreciate it. I wasn't going to make this video, but I went on my channel, saw it, and it's enough to get me to sit down here and make another video. Man, I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. Give me any feedback, any video ideas, just anything. I appreciate all the feedback. Appreciate yous all, and as always, have a good one.